Forest Service conservation projects in Hoosier National Forest often pit the agency's goals against the wishes of locals. One of the largest timberland owners in the region, Indiana Governor Mike Braun, is pressuring the agency to stop two planned projects, Buffalo Springs and Houston South. Ethan Sandwise has his story.
Forester Perry Seitzinger took us to a deep part of the forest. Here, sunlight reaches the ground. Around us, the woods are obscured in shadow. 3 years ago, this area was clear-cut by the Forest Service.
They removed all the overstory and let the natural seed bank take off and regenerate into hardwood trees.
The Forest Service wants to restore the oak and hickory forests that once covered Indiana before the settlers clear-cut the state. It's targeting two areas, the Houston South Project and the Buffalo Springs Project. To do so, the Forest Service uses a combination of low-intensity prescribed fire burns and cutting down some trees. That creates conditions benefiting oak and hickory over other trees.
I must admit, when this first happens, it is not aesthetically pleasing whatsoever. And that elicits an emotional response in people. It's important to know the science behind it and why we're doing what we do.
The Forest Service did not grant an interview, but Seitzinger explained its process.
If we don't have any forest management, we will not have our forests as we know them because of invasive species and changes in climate and those sorts of things. So a passive approach to managing our forests is no longer a valid option.
Forest Service ecologists say taking no action would continue the trend toward shadyo forests dominated by maple and beech.
The Forest Service projects I've reviewed and seen, they're using all of that information to make these decisions, and I think it's all extremely well founded, in my opinion.
An oak hickory forest without a dense canopy of other trees creates a habitat for turkey and songbirds that prefer open forests. It also allows a variety of sunlight-dependent wildflowers to flourish. Those seeds can lie dormant for decades, but without the right conditions, they can die.
The clock's going to run out on being able to bring these species out of the seed bank that are there. And so I think they're probably on those types of sites trying to maximize the site potential.
But restoring an ecosystem is messy. Burns and cuts come at the short-term expense of other species, and they're off-putting for some who live by and enjoy these forests.
There's trees and brooks and hills, and it's just nature and good friends to ride with until you get to where they've clear-cut timber out, and then it's an ugly mess.
The Indiana Forest Alliance and its giant plywood bison are a frequent presence at protests against the Buffalo Springs and Houston South projects. Its members advocate for a hands-off approach, what ecologists sometimes call preservation, versus involved management or conservation.
Now that land has slowly healed, and so the natural, much more diverse forest is coming back. And we think that they should manage the Hoosier National Forest to let that natural transition occur.
Stant has fought for the forest for nearly 50 years since he helped establish the Charles Dean Wilderness, but his organization is often at odds with the government service established to protect it.
They're going out of their way to do the project in a way that are going to cause major impacts. And all you have to do is look at the 3 square miles they just burned and all the hazard trees they cut down to know they're doing that.
The Forest Alliance, Monroe County commissioners, and other environmentalist groups have sued to block one of the two projects, Houston South near Lake Monroe. But they also have what might seem like an unlikely political ally, Indiana's Republican governor, Mike Braun. He's written 2 letters to the Forest Service, a federal agency, asking it to end the projects, citing local opposition and saying it threatens the forest's, quote, recreational and ecological value. He also wrote a letter of support to opposition groups. Despite being a lifelong Democrat, Stant and his wife donated $66,000 to Braun's bid for governor.
I was glad to see him win the primary resoundingly, and quite frankly, he has a vision about the public lands that I don't think the Democrats had even thought about yet. So I was glad to support him as governor.
Besides his love of outdoor recreation, the Indiana governor is one of the largest timberland owners in the state, with thousands of acres near Forest Service projects, collectively worth tens of millions of dollars. Wood harvested on his land enters the same market as timber sold by the Forest Service. As a state legislator, Braun attempted to limit logging in state forests while successfully cutting taxes and regulations on private timber. The governor's office did not respond for an interview.
I don't think he has a conflict of interest. I know he's been accused of that because he owns private woodlands. He doesn't want the government competing. I don't think the government selling logs hurts him at all from an economic standpoint.
But Braun, a Jasper native, is in the same camp as many in the region he was raised. Hunters, hikers, and horseback riders use the forest, and many don't want to see it change. When it comes to passive versus active management, Stambaugh says that what seems right can be immensely personal.
No one's right there, right? Like it's your kind of philosophy, and in some cases, it's even like comes down to environmental ethics, like what's right and wrong.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
A map of the Buffalo Springs and Houston South projects, along with the land owned by the governor, is available on our website, WTIUnews.org.